The corridors of General Hospital were quieter than usual, but the tension buzzed just beneath the surface. Everyone had known Robert Scorpio for decades, a super spy, a father, a friend, a legend. But now, his sudden and tragic death had left a void no one could easily fill. And with his will about to be read, secrets and surprises loomed like ghosts waiting to haunt Port Charles. The Spencer family gathered at Laura's house, which had been chosen for the reading. Anna, dressed in stark black with her expression unreadable, sat next to Mac, his jaw clenched and heart visibly aching. Felicia, Maxie, Valentine, Dante, and Sam had all arrived, though none could anticipate just how many twists Robert's last wishes would contain. But the most unlikely person present, one who had almost skipped the event, was Sasha Gilmore. She sat stiffly near the back, uncertain of her place in all this. After all, Robert Scorpio had always been cordial, sometimes even protective, but they weren't close, were they? And then there was Daisy Kwan, who walked into the room nervously, her eyes darting to each familiar face. She hadn't seen most of these people in years. The last anyone knew, she had been working in upstate New York, attending meditation retreats and running community gardens. So what was she doing here? It had only been a week since Robert's death in a car accident. At least, that was what the official report said. But Anna had doubts. Robert had survived assassination attempts, poisonings, even brainwashing. A car accident? Too mundane for a man like him. Yet, with no foul play proven, everyone had been forced to grieve. And now, it was time to honor his final wishes. Diane Miller, serving as Robert's lawyer, entered the room precisely on time. In her hand, a sleek black folder with the Scorpio seal, Robert's own emblem burned into the cover with invisible ink, now glowing faintly under the sunlight streaming through the blinds. She began formally. "Thank you all for coming. Robert wanted this to be a private affair. You were all selected for a reason." Her eyes scanned the room, lingering briefly on Sasha and Daisy. Then she continued. The will began with the predictable. To Anna Devane, Robert left his entire WSB archive, including access codes to encrypted files even she didn't know existed. Anna, Robert had written, "You were always the better spy. I kept things from you not out of distrust, but because you deserved to carry the legacy, not the burden." Anna gasped softly. To Max Scorpio, Robert left his collection of journals, annotated case files, and a custom revolver from their early mission days. "For the brother who always kept me grounded," Robert had written. To Felicia, he gave a rare emerald necklace from a long-ago mission in South America. "You once saved my life with a smile. This is repayment, decades late." To Maxie, he left his Aston Martin, the same vintage car that had been in his garage for years. "You reminded me to never let life grow stale." To Laura, he left a sealed letter. No one else was to know its contents. Laura's hands trembled as she took the envelope, her eyes moist with emotion. To Dante and Sam, he left matching silver cufflinks and locket, both embedded with tracking chips and encrypted USBs. "For your future cases, you'll know when to use them." All of it was touching, emotional, poetic. But then Diane paused and cleared her throat. And now, the next part concerns Daisy Kwan and Sasha Gilmore. Everyone shifted. Diane adjusted her glasses and began. To Daisy Kwan, "I leave the house on Greenbrier Hill, along with $2 million in a protected trust, and the deed to Scorpio Safe Haven, a hidden property located just outside of Zurich." Everyone blinked. Robert had only ever mentioned the safe haven once. Anna whispered to Mac. It was one of his fallback bunkers, a sanctuary, a place no one could trace. Daisy's mouth fell open.
"What?
I don't understand." Diane nodded. Robert added, "A personal note for you." She opened a separate envelope and read, "Daisy, you once brought light to a world that threatened to dim forever. I never forgot what you did for my daughter. Or for me. I know you never asked for anything. This is for your heart, for your sacrifice, and for what you'll protect after I'm gone." A heavy silence followed. Daisy was speechless. Sasha, on the other hand, stiffened. What did he mean, what she'll protect? Sasha asked aloud. As the will continued, Sasha was called forward. To Sasha Gilmore, I leave the following: a locked safety deposit box in Zurich, the password to which is known only to Daisy. Sasha's brows shot up. What? She murmured. Why would she have the password to something that's supposed to be mine? Diane raised her hand to clarify. Robert included a final video message. He wanted it played if there were questions. She inserted a USB into the laptop and turned the screen toward the room. Robert's face filled the screen, clear-eyed, stern, but deeply emotional. Sasha, if you're watching this, it means I've passed. But there's something I never told you, something I couldn't. Your life was manipulated in so many ways by Cyrus, by Gladys, even by Peter August. But years ago, before you ever arrived in Port Charles, I knew about you. Not just as a face hired to pretend to be Nina's daughter. I knew your origin. And more importantly, I knew your mother. The room grew still. Your biological mother was Isabella Duval, a WSB deep asset. She was killed during an extraction mission I led. I made a promise to her as she lay dying, to protect her child.
You.
Sasha's face crumpled in disbelief. I placed you with a civilian guardian in Florida, who tragically died. Your records were buried, then altered. I kept an eye on you from afar. When you landed in Port Charles, I was already pulling strings to make sure you survived. Sasha gasped, a hand to her mouth. But I also knew you'd need protection after my death. That's why Daisy has access to what's inside the deposit box. She was assigned to be your silent guardian years ago, and she never failed. Now it made sense. The random encounters with Daisy, the quiet glances, the messages from unknown numbers that had saved her life more than once. The time Daisy, accidentally, crossed paths with her after Brando's death. Daisy had always been there. The room turned to Daisy, who looked visibly shaken. Sasha stood slowly, walking toward her. You knew? All this time? Daisy nodded. I was sworn to secrecy. Robert recruited me right out of prison, after I turned my life around. I became a field operative. Low-level surveillance. I was told you were under threat from multiple angles, so I watched. That's all. Why didn't you say anything? I couldn't. Robert made me promise. But I'm so sorry, Sasha. Tears welled in Sasha's eyes. You're the reason I survived that overdose at the Metro Court. You were there, weren't you? Daisy nodded. Yes. Emotion erupted in Sasha's chest. The betrayal, the gratitude, the confusion, it all blended into a scream that never came. Instead, she simply sat back down, hands shaking. Diane spoke again. Sasha, the safety deposit box contains the final key to your inheritance, a dossier detailing your mother's final mission, and a personal letter from Robert. Alongside it is a vial labeled Project Orpheus. Anna jumped to her feet. Project Orpheus was terminated. I thought the vials were destroyed. Diane frowned. Robert apparently preserved one for Sasha. After the reading, Sasha pulled Daisy aside. What is Project Orpheus? Daisy hesitated. It's complicated. It's a regenerative formula, a medical miracle, potentially. It was part of the WSB's fringe science research. Robert believed it could heal brain trauma, even revive those in comas. Sasha's eyes lit up. Like, Willow. Daisy shook her head. Possibly. But it's unstable. One dose could save a life. The wrong dose could end one. Suddenly, Sasha felt a wave of obligation rise inside her. This wasn't just about inheritance. Robert had left her a legacy, one tied to science, espionage, and hope. It was overwhelming. Then came a knock at the door. A man in a trench coat, face bruised, shirt torn, stepped in. Everyone turned. Sorry to interrupt. My name is Gareth Vaughn. I worked with Robert in Berlin. I have reason to believe his death wasn't accidental. And someone is coming for the contents of that deposit box. By morning, it was clear. Port Charles wasn't safe anymore. Daisy and Sasha moved into the Scorpio safe haven under Anna's protection. Gareth briefed the team, Anna, Dante, Sam, and Laura, on a secret faction in the WSB now run rogue. The faction wanted Project Orpheus, and they knew Sasha had it. Meanwhile, back at the Metro Court, a mysterious guest checked in using an alias that hadn't been seen since Helena Cassadine's time. The war for Orpheus had begun. Faced with the truth about her identity and the burden of the formula, Sasha was left with a decision. Use Orpheus to save someone she loved, Willow, or even her son Leo, who still struggled with cognitive delays, or destroy it and end the threat. But Robert's letter whispered to her heart, "The greatest legacy isn't what you leave behind. It's what you choose not to. Trust yourself, Sasha. You were never weak. You were just waiting to become strong." With Daisy by her side and Port Charles on the brink, Sasha finally understood. She wasn't just someone's daughter. She was a Scorpio legacy now, and she was ready for the fight ahead.